All right, man. So I want to know what sparked your interest in coming on and talking about disability and masculinity and knowing that it could have an impact on a lot of people because potentially a lot of people could see this.
Well, essentially, um, what sparked my interest was the initial question, like, what does that mean as far as having a disability and being men? Because I think as we get older, um, we're really defined by that as society. And I think, like, society wants you to grow up quick, real quick, and be an adult when um, most of us really aren't an adult until we're like 60, in my opinion. Like you really don't have anything together until probably about, I would say, about 45, 50, because it's the generational gap is different versus like 20 years ago. And it's, I don't know if it's been proven or not, but there's science behind it where the emotional makeup of everybody as far as society goes, everybody's not really an adult until they hit 40, because it could, the demographic is different. I don't know if any of this is making sense, but yeah.
Got it. So, first, I think, are you somebody who has a disability?
Yes, I have cerebral palsy. And what initially sparked the interest going back to that was like, okay, Nathan's doing this. There's a reason why, but let's go see. And a lot of it is like when I see you doing stuff on Clubhouse or on social media, it's more like I have an idea. Here's my idea. What do you guys think? So you kind of throw it back into the atmosphere and let people judge themselves or let them have a conversation based on what you're doing. But like I said previously, you keep things very very humble. Which if I could do that in my own profession, I would. If I could find that for myself, I would. But it's you. You know, a lot of people probably said that to you, and they like how you do things as far as a brand and everything else. So
So, I'm curious, as a man who's lived your entire life with this thing called cerebral palsy, what does it mean from your perspective to be a man?
ironically, this is kind of like really hitting home a little bit because what I've been doing over the last couple of months is really trying to understand the way my mind is, but also understand my emotional makeup and trying to understand what that means to me as me versus what society thinks, um, and just where I stand with that.
Got it.
I think living with a disability is it's not a it's not a perspective I really look at. Like a lot of my friends will say, "You're capable," and I see it, but I also see the other half of that. Like, you know, they say play a card. Like a lot of times they'll say to my friends, you or other people in general, I'll say, I'm not playing disability card here, but here's my perception on that. But I think the concept of having a disability and being a man and being a human being overall has changed in the last 20 to 30 years. Because we're not in 1978 where ADA happened. You know, they started to fight for that. It's not 1990 where it was passed. But if it wasn't for those people that fought for those rights, we wouldn't we wouldn't have that, you know.
And so, based on what you've kind of led into there, what's one message you think society is getting wrong about masculinity and disability right now?
The whole, I don't know how to say that honestly, because there's, I don't really know how to say that. The whole be a man thing, grow up and be a man, when you're still trying to figure that out. Like, go, I know this is probably going to go off a little bit, but Gary Vee says this all the time, and he has grown up say to him all the time, "Hey, what do I do about my 22-year-old son? He wants to do this or that." And he literally says to a parent, I'll show you the video, 22 still a kid, you know? So I think it's a matter of perception when it comes down to how people view having a disability and what it means to be a human being and be a man. Because being a man could be different things for different people. Being a man could be not working a 9-to-5 job and doing what you're doing and doing what I'm trying to do. You know, it could be working a 9-to-5 job and doing this. But it's a different perception. And I think that's a very interesting conversation to have, because I think it needs to be had in society. But what I've learned from you as a person, like, you've got to have the conversations that can't be said. Because if you don't have those conversations, we're not going to get anywhere. So, I appreciate what people did in 1978 with the ADA stuff, but it's got to be talked about. But I think being a human being and being a man is just, you got to take the edge off. What I mean by take the edge off is going back to, like, you got to grow up, but don't grow up so fast. Like, still have the ability to think like a kid. You know, and I've said this to different therapists over the years. I've watched it happen, but I've said this to different therapists. You can take this to wrong with it. I would go to therapy sessions and I would say, if you watch your child, if your childhood dies, you become bitter. And I think, like, not always, but people tend to grow up quick. But if you grow up and you become bitter, then you lose that essence in yourself. You can't go back to it. You know, you talk about the 5-year-old, like, asking questions. If you have that 5-year-old die mentally, your mental state isn't going to be pretty. So that's why I try to approach things like a kid most times. Like, I know that I'm an adult. I have to be an adult in certain aspects, and I have to go and do things. But there are times, like, I'll sit and play video games just like everybody else, but that's my time to be a kid. But I think, being a man and having a disability, it's different for everybody. But I think, like, the grow up quick mentality has to stop.
In what
But
ways?
also, like, love what you do. If you're gonna do a job, love what you do. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's a grocery store. Doesn't matter if it's what you're doing or what I'm doing. But love what you do, because if you don't love what you do, then it's not for you. You need to leave that job and find what you need to do.
So I want to know, in what ways has your disability forced you to grow up quick?
Okay. How do you want me to answer that one, dude?
It's whatever's coming up for you right now.
I don't know how to answer it. I know how I want to answer it, but I don't know if you want that answer.
Say your answer.
My parents' divorce made me kind of grow up quick. If I'm being blunt and I'm being honest, I don't blame my parents for what happened to their stuff, but that caused me to grow up quick in a way. But it's also caused a fight or flight mode in that. But I've also realized in that fight or flight mode, like I said to you before, why am I like this? Like I'm really starting to break it down and figure out psychologically, like as a therapist, why is my brain the way it is? And a lot of it is my emotional aspect towards things. So that goes back to if I have to constantly work on my mental state. Because if I don't do that, I'm not going to be okay. You know, but it's also caused me to be like, I want to go somewhere. I don't like that times are hard, and it's a very hard thing to like realize that, but then realize that you want to push so hard, and everybody would say push. I'm tired of pushing, and that's the other aspect of it of being a man, right? Like you have a disability, you're growing up with a disability, and then you get to a point where you're tired. No one talks about that at all. Like I ask you all the time, okay, what about like PTSD and surgeries and stuff? You know, is that a real thing? You said, yeah, okay. What does that mean for me? That's where I'm telling you, I'm taking like 2 months out of the, the last 2 months, I've really tried to figure out where I lie with all this. But then, like you said, in the loneliness solution, like take the 5-year-old, ask questions. I'm then trying to take the 5-year-old out of it and answer it as an adult, but also keep that 5-year-old next to me and say, you're going to be fine. You're okay. But then I drive myself nuts because I overthink like everybody else. And this is the biggest hang up that I could ever have for myself as an adult. Like, I do TV shows. I go out and do what I do, and I love what I do. But now it's like, how can I be like I am right now, talking with you on this interview, and be myself in a professional sense? And that's the hang up right now. Not as career, but the other question I would have for you is like, okay, masculinity, disability, and career. Because that's the other aspect. Like, you got to find a career, or you got to find your niche in that. Like, what does that
mean? What does it mean for you?
You have to be humble, but you have to be honest, but you have to convey that in a very professional way.
So if you were to describe being a man, masculinity, using 3 words and 3 words alone, what words would you use?
That's a hard one. Humble. Raw. Authentic. If there's anything that I've learned from you, you have to be authentic. And if you're not authentic and raw, and at least humble with what you do, what are you doing?
So, what do you feel like is the hardest thing to be those three things in the world?
Trying to figure out how to say it in words, but also take the emotion out of it and not be too forefront with it.
Why?
Because I feel like this isn't me being frustrated or angry, right? We've had this conversation before. I'm really trying to find my voice again, but I want to find it in a very authentic, raw, and humble way, and be able to say what I have to say with no filter. Not saying every word's going to be a cuss word, but I want the emotion to be there, and I want to understand what I have to say. And I thought of you a couple weeks ago because you would say, your lines, which are, I'm seen, I'm loved, I'm heard. I could be messing that up. I'm sorry if I am. Um, and I thought about that for an entire 24 hours, and I was like, I didn't feel hurt as a kid. So
So,
probably that's why. Like I feel like I have to be so blunt. But why am I? Why is the emotion you're angry? Why are you frustrated? You're frustrated because you pushed so much for yourself, for your life, because you were put in situations where you had to, because it was do or die, right? It's called surgeries or surgeries, right? But that's do or die moment. If you didn't push, you wouldn't be living. Okay, but why can't anybody understand that you're like somewhat tired of pushing? You can go to work, you can work a job, but you're tired of mentally pushing. And it kind of goes back to the whole Tommy Shelby thing I keep telling you. That's why I admire that because he pushes so hard and he acts so quick that I have to. I if I can get half of that, I'm great. You know. But with the whole my parents divorce thing, if I'm being honest, being a being a man having a disability, what does that mean for me as a person? With my parents divorce, I accept it, but what does it mean?
what what do you think you made it mean when you were that little boy?
I was scared. I had family around me, but mentally, I didn't really think I did, and I did, but they didn't talk. But in the same sense, my parents were my parents. They did what the best they could do. Mom and Dad, I love the heck out of you, but some part of me, like, I figured I failed them in a way. Nah, it's got nothing to do with that. It's more where are you at it? Where are you with it? Sorry, where are you at in the spectrum of things with it now? And how can you apply that to your life now versus 20 years ago? But the thing that you've taught me the most is the 5-year old thing. To ask questions like you're a 5-year old, the exercise you have to do, and then your emotions are valid. Anytime I get in an argument with somebody, it's okay. I accept that. You taught me that. You taught me a heck of a lot with emotional aspects.
So, what do you feel like would change for you if you were able to have more times where you felt heard?
I would be able to speak my mind. And I'm not talking like negative, right? But I'm talking being like you, being like friends that I know, you know, being able to be in a space where I feel safe enough to do that.
Let's talk.
And
Let's talk about that for a second, because I think that will help a lot of people too. So when you think about being safe and feeling safe, what does that look like?
that's being able to say what you want, no, really. And I'm not saying, like I said before, every word's got to be a cuss word coming out of your mouth. But I feel like you have to have the emotion there, and the emotions have to be there for you to see it. Like, I'm not mad anymore, but I'm frustrated because it's like, well, what do I do now? You're doing the best you can, but I don't see it. But I'm still doing it because I get up every day and I go and I do it. My entire existence, and I've said this to people, is to give back to my community. Now, I will tell you straight, growing up, I didn't grow up with a lot of kids with disabilities. All my friends were able bodied, but they understood. They understood. And they always stuck up for me, but I always felt like I was by myself. And I can bet you half the people that you talk to, you're going to get the same answer. In high school, I would get stared at walking down the highway. I would go flipping on, crutches, speeding down the hallway. My friend's over here laughing because he's right. But I literally felt like I was alone in high school. I didn't care for high school. I was more friends with people in college. I appreciate college more. That's because the standards go away. The standard of what you're made of in high school goes away. And if and everybody says the same thing. Like, if I could ask a question or say something to my younger self, you're going to be all right. You're going to go through heck. But it's okay to feel that way.
Yeah.
But I felt like if I had more friends in high school, and I said this to my friends today, if I had more friends in high school and I had a social group, and yeah, I could have gone out and gone to like football games and all that, right? But I didn't want to. Not because I was ashamed of my disability, but I felt like I didn't belong. A lot of us don't feel like we belong, even as adults. I'm still trying to find my space in my life, but I can accept what is.
So let
Like,
me.
but I show, like you say, show up all the time, right? I show up as myself. You either take it or you don't. A lot of people don't like that, but that's me being raw and that's me being humble. But if you're behind me 100%. I'll be behind you 100%. A lot
I
of it is, I'm a Taurus. I'm stubborn. A lot of us Tauruses are stubborn, but
ladies and gentlemen, that is
like,
true.
I want to get to a point where my voice, that I feel heard. Like, and I want to be able to say what I want to say without a filter, but have them understand I'm not like yelling at them. It's like I said to my therapist last week. I said, who do you see working on your mental space or your emotional state every single day for the last 3-4 years? Nobody. Why? Because nobody wants to do it. And the people that do it, they're scared as heck, just like me. But if I could be honest, blunt, and humble at the same time, in a professional sense, I'm good. I'm great.
I have one more question for you for this one, and it's, how do you think if you were surrounded by a community of other men, and they don't have to be men with disabilities, they can just be men. How do you think that would support you? Would it support you?
I think so. So, I mean, I've thought about having different people that I look up to, know, in my circle, but also having them understand, look, I'm gonna show up for you, but I'm gonna be how I am right now. And if those guys, if it was you and a bunch of other people, the only thing I would ask them is to have me understand that I can be like this, but also be myself and also be humble. Because I feel like a lot of people can't take me as this because I'm coming off a very upfront, in your face, one, don't care kind of attitude, which I can understand that I have an attitude problem and I've worked on that. But I'm literally just trying to make sure I'm not the guy screaming in the back of the room going, hey, Pete, no. I'm the guy in the back of the room plastered to the wall going, hi. You know, they talk about like parties when you go to a school party and you're plastered against the wall and you don't really talk to people. That was me. So literally, I'm just trying to find my voice again, and that can be a very, very scary. The
Yeah.
one thing that I won't let go of, and it's not that I'm clutching for it, right? I'm not going to let go of the kid inside of me because that I've seen that happen, and I think a lot of us have that, whether disability or not. But I think a lot of us that do have a disability have that more because you're carefree when you're a kid. There is no responsibilities when you're a kid. And a lot of us want that. Like, I'm chasing peace of mind here. I'm not chasing freedom. I want my peace of mind back.
Mm.
And that's ultimately what I want. But I want to be able to do it in a very humble, honest, and authentic way.
Okay, let
Because
me ask.
if I could be you at the end of the day, or even my father, or Mike, as you know,
What do you
I would
love
do it.
about what do you love about your dad?
He's honest, but he's always willing to go the extra mile. But he's blunt, more blunt than I've ever seen him. Not that. And here's the thing, guys. Like, blunt could be bad, but I'm saying blunt in a very good way. Like, he'll tell you how it is. I'd rather you do that than give me a lie. You know, and it's like I've said this to multiple people. If I have kids, like one thing my dad did when we were kids is he was always there. He may have gone off and done his own thing, but he was always there for his kids. That's why I said if I have kids, I'm gonna be as honest and as open as I can be because I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. Now I understand that from a different perspective if the child is a different age range, 4 or 5 years old. There's certain things you can't really say to a kid at their age because they take that in. But if they're 7, 8 years old and they can handle it, because that's what I really think the conversation is can a child handle that? If they can't handle that, then that's when you sugarcoat it. But I'm never gonna lie to my kids if I
Um, all right. I know I said last question the last time, but
have. All right, man.
here's the real one that I really want. So I want to know what's one thing that you are really proud about about yourself?
Decent. I don't talk about this much. I'm not like I want everybody to hear this when they hear this, when they see this. I want people to understand that I'm not ashamed of my disability, but I'm proud as heck. But me being proud of it is different. So I'm proud that I was able to go through 9 surgeries and survive. But I'm also proud for the recent stuff that I've gone through, that I can be more authentic with myself and blunt, because I didn't think you could do that. Because I didn't think society wanted that. I'm not scared. If anything, I'm scared for reactions. But at the end of the day, like, who's going to say what? You can't say I didn't lay it all on the table. Like I said to my friend, I said, when I die tomorrow, if they say if I died tomorrow, I want to be remembered for, dang, he really gave a heck of a lot for people, but he always had everybody's back. That's it. So being authentic and being where I'm at, but I don't really look at that. I don't look at that because that's life. I'm just like on to the next thing. But no, I've really like looked at it over the last 24 hours.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time, and I know whoever ends up seeing this also appreciates your time. And I will talk to you later, all right?
All right, bro.